Thank you. Bye. All right, so I wanted to react to this theory that came out by Game Theory about a week ago, 8 days ago. It's got almost 2 million views, and I briefly watched it, um, and I have some thoughts about it. So I did want to make a reaction to this. No, nothing against Game Theory. Um, this is just simply my thoughts with it. Um, and I don't necessarily agree with the way that they're presenting some things and what they are saying. And I think this can be really harmful for the community because again, this has 2 million views. That's a lot. That is a lot. Um, and when you are a channel of this size, making theories like this, um, about a franchise such as this, a lot of people are going to take your word as fact. And I think the way that you present your information becomes so much more important. So I just want to take a look at this video and react to it. I do have some thoughts on it that I want to share. Again, no hate towards Game Theory, no hate towards Tom. Love the work that they do. These are just kind of my thoughts, being a new theorist in the community.
Secret of the Mimic is finally here, and it changes everything. Our understanding of the books, our understanding of the timeline, and our understanding of the characters we've come to know over the last 11 years. But
So yeah, this is, accurate. I think it's crazy. It's been 11 years. That's wild. But yeah.
As always, I'm here to pull an Afton, or an Edwin, as it turns out, and put it all back together.
So with that, pulling an Afton or an Edwin and putting it all back together, I think that's kind of referencing the God David theory, I think. And we'll see what he believes on that.
Hello Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, the show that's jaw has been hanging open like a badly made Chica costume ever since the release of FNAF's Secret of the Mimic. And I'm not alone in that feeling. Every single YouTuber has been completely sideswiped by this game. Chica! I can't believe we got Chica! Hey! Oh my god, there she is! That's insane! Why has it taken us all by surprise? Well, besides the fact the game actually works, mostly, it also did something that is completely unheard of in a FNAF game. They actually gave us a story. And I don't...
So with saying they actually gave us a story, I do think we have been getting stories. They just have been a little convoluted. This does have a more self-contained story, but to say that they actually gave us a story, I think is a little bit demeaning to some of the other games, like Security Breach. We did have a story, it just didn't make sense.
mean the super cryptic kind that we have to spend years and years figuring out. I mean the kind that actually helps us move forward.
Now, okay, here, this story is still cryptic. We do have some key pieces of new information, but it is still cryptic. And it's not really helping us move forward, it's filling in gaps. This doesn't move us forward in the franchise. We still know everything that we knew with Ruin. Granted, now it's a little bit different, but this hasn't changed that there's a Mimic in Ruin. That's kind of where I'm a little iffy on that. I wouldn't consider this fully bringing us forward, but it is filling in gaps and giving us a more cohesive timeline.
Franchise. For a long time, the community has been frustrated with the lack of clarification out there for this series. It's been years of theory upon theory upon theory, and while we have come to certain agreements for parts of it, there are still massive sections of the lore that we haven't been able to agree on simply because there's never really been a solid foundation to jump off of. But now, after 11 years of this franchise, Secret of the Mimic came as the earliest entry in the FNAF timeline and said, guys, I got you, giving us relatively clear breakdowns of how the early years of Fazbear came to be, as well as throwing a bunch of hand cranks into the works that make us question everything we knew about this franchise.
So with that, like, You're saying that this game is something that they haven't done before, where they're making things clear and giving us a clear story, but then at the end of that sentence, you're saying, but it makes us question everything we knew. Like, this is still a game we're going to be theorizing about for years. It is. Like, that's just what it is. Um, with the puppet blueprints, with learning that Fazbear is as old as it is, with learning that, you know, there were contractors, MCM created a lot of things, Chica's Party World. This is not a clear, contained story.
Timelines that have been displaced, character personas completely shattered, and understandings of where the future of this franchise is going totally flipped on its head. And I intend to theorize about all of it in a 3-part series across the next month or so, focusing on the 3 main characters from this new game: the newcomer Edwin Murray and his family, the big bad mimic, and, of course, Fazbear Entertainment, William Afton, and Henry. All of that will then be followed up with a live talkback with a bunch of other FNAF theorists to discuss the game, our differing theories, and generally just talking about the franchise that we've all enjoyed for so long. Dates for that are TBD right now, so make sure you're subscribed so that when I do announce it, you'll be the first to know. And
So, with it, presenting it in that way makes me feel like this isn't a theory. What you're trying to present here is just facts of the game. Um, you know, everything you know about FNAF is a lie, is the title of this. And it's being presented as if this is the facts of Secret of the Mimic. I'm not theorizing on it. I'm going to be theorizing about it in the next 3 parts that I'm going to be releasing over the next month.
to make sure you don't miss all of the crazy theories leading up to it, because believe me, you don't want to miss them. There are some real bombshells in this game that I want to explore. But for now, let's start from the beginning. We jump into the game as a lowly mechanic working for the wonderful as always Fazbear Entertainment. Our name is Arnold, and we've just gotten off of a 36-hour shift, only to be called in for one last job to help recover some Fazbear assets from one of their contractors, Edwin Murray. Begrudgingly, we head to Murray's costume manor, only to discover the asset is a set of blueprints for a killer animatronic endoskeleton that can fit into any costume and learn the role of any character or person, the Mimic. We gain access to different areas of the facility by upgrading our data diver with different permissions, from basic to security, repair, all the way up to executive privileges, all while trying to outrun or outweight the Mimic.
He's going for it.
Eventually, we get our hands on the blueprints, only to discover that it wasn't Fazbear talking to us through dispatch. It was the Mimic pretending.
It wasn't the Mimic, it was F10. And I think we've seen it pretty clear that F10 and M2 / the Mimic are 2 different entities. But by showing this clip when you're saying this, it makes it seem like you're saying M2 has been mimicking dispatch when it was F10.
To be them to get their hands on the data diver. This leads to one of 3 endings where we either escape and get killed by the Mimic, we escape and get killed by the Mimic, or we fix the Mimic and then just stand there watching it sleep. Now, these guys deserve an episode of their own, because whichever one is canon could have massive implications that I just don't have time to get into right.
Ending 3 is canon. I'm just putting it out there. Ending 3, the secret ending, is canon.
Now, instead, let's turn our attention to the stuff we can discover during the game, and the first of our big 3 characters, Edwin Murray. If you're a longtime viewer of this channel, or you're one of the people who understands my pain and has actually read the books, then that name isn't anything new. Edwin Murray is a character that we were introduced to in both The Storyteller and The Mimic from the Tales from the Peterplex series. His company was bought out by Fazbear. He created the Mimic to babysit his son David, but his son tragically died. And because the Mimic kept mimicking his dead son, he beat the thing up, teaching it violence, and then showed up 40 years later trying to stop it. However, when the Secret of the Mimic's creative director Evan Lampe said to Dorco,
If you've read the books, you don't know the full story.
he wasn't kidding. The story of Edwin goes so much deeper and is so much more tragic than we could have ever realized.
Yeah, so with those books, it should be clear that the books are not canon. They are a different continuity, they are a different timeline. They are just used to help, but they are not canon at all.
As Arnold explores Murray's costume manor, we can find audio recordings and mailboxes containing digital text logs that give us the real story of what happened to this place. It was originally owned by Edwin's father, who we'll call Murray Sr. Edwin Murray works for him.
Edwin Murray. This is my dad's place.
You know, because nepotism. But Edwin is the quirky inventor type, and to test out his new voice recorder creation, he seeks out one of the new employees and former puppeteers.
Excuse me, can I borrow your voice for a project?
What for? I don't even know you. I'm brand new here. Let's start again. I'm Fiona.
Murray Sr. then passes away and leaves the whole thing to Edwin, who rebrands everything to bring his wacky inventions to life.
Maybe rebrand? We could start making some of my inventions for real.
Together with Fiona, they invent a bunch of wild tech, like a coffee machine that can learn your coffee preferences to make the perfect cup, a coat hanger that can adjust to any size you need, and an adorable vacuum cleaner. Oh, just look at him with his tiny little brooms and his little dumpy. Anyway, alongside this, he is also making a bunch of costumes, which I suppose makes sense given that's the name of the business.
So with making the costumes like that, that's what it was. I think when Edwin took over, he started making the inventions alongside the costumes, but the costumes were always his dad's, business. He started adding on the inventions, but the costume, that's their moneymaker. That's their main game right there.
But the characters we see are interesting. If you're a FNAF fan, we see a handful of characters that you might recognize, like Pirate and Cowgirl Roxy, Hillbilly Monty, a puppet pirate Foxy, and the big one, a rollerblading costume of Chica.
And it should be noted that I don't know about Monty, but it's implied that for Roxy, Foxy, and Chica, that Fiona is specifically who created those.
Freaking Chica.
Or rather, designed them.
Let's party!
She really was the first, wasn't she? But besides Chica, who Edwin and Fiona were specifically hired to make for a client, Chica's Party World, yes, that Chica's Party World, all of these other characters were rentable or purchasable from Murray's costume manor, meaning Edwin owned these characters. They weren't originally Fazbear's.
So the characters that you're showing are not Fazbear characters. I've never seen a lion or a bluebird like that. These costumes, these three costumes here, no, they're not Fazbear. This is part of Edwin's company. Fazbear's relationship with MCM is a contractor. So Fazbear hired him to do a job, and he does that job and then gives them, there's going to be a contract in place there that says, we own the rights to the characters you create, we own the rights to this, we own the rights to that. So, without seeing the contract, we obviously don't know for sure, but it's not like saying everything is MCM, because I don't fully believe that. I do believe Fiona designed them, but I don't think they're the intellectual property of MCM. There's obviously a contractor agreement in there somewhere. And it's not like Fazbear was just renting out Foxy, renting out Roxy, Monty, whoever they did at this time. They would have licensed these characters, gotten these characters from MCM, and just had MCM build them.
However, Fazbear was around as another one of Edwin's clients, taking interest in his technological genius, even to the point where Edwin refers to Henry as simply Hen in the audio logs, presumably because they have a level of familiarity and friendship thanks to their shared technology.
So, there's an audio log where he specifically says that they're his friends. This is not just because of their shared, whatever. They have a long-standing relationship, and they would have been clients of MCM's far before Edwin took over the business, because when Edwin does take over the business, he is focusing on inventions. There's several text logs and audio logs that show us he's focusing on his little inventions. And his dad was who focused on costumes, and that is what Fazbear was getting from him, was those animatronic costumes, the mascot costumes. So yeah, there's a long-standing relationship here. This isn't revolutionary.
logical creativity.
I got the change order from Hen last night. They don't think of me as a friend anymore.
But the real tragedy of Edwin comes from when we look at his family. I've mentioned his wife Fiona, but he also has a son named David, just like he did in the Tales from the Pizzaplex book series. Unlike that series though, Fiona doesn't die in childbirth. She's still around during David's early years, until she tragically passes away, leaving Edwin to run the business and raise David all on his own, leading Edwin to come up with the only logical solution: build an animatronic that can babysit David, obviously.
So, I don't know if it's clear if M1 was built specifically to babysit David, or if it was a reused, like, endo, basically, to babysit him, because if it's able to change shapes and sizes and fit into any costume, you don't need all of that for a babysitter. So my guess is that this was something he was already working on and just repurposed it.
Creates the M1 mimic. But
I don't believe that this graphic that is being shown is M1. We can see that there are multiple endoskeleton designs. With Sleepy Moon, it is possible that there are 2 endoskeletons to mimic endoskeletons roaming the building. This, I don't think, is M1. That's just a me thing.
something strange happens. It begins to not just look after David, but mimic Edwin's dead wife, Fiona.
So with it mimicking Edwin's dead wife, Fiona, I think that that is actually partly Fiona's possession, which I don't believe is mentioned at all in this video. That there is possession going on in M1. That's kind of what we're seeing in Moon.exe. That's kind of what we're seeing in the audio logs, and in the text logs even as well. That it's more than just it starts mimicking Fiona. Because if we're saying that Fiona is long dead and Edwin can't handle it and he creates a babysitter robot, a mimic babysitter robot, well, what is it going to mimic? Fiona's already dead. How is it mimicking Fiona if Fiona is dead? So there's a level of possession here. It's not just mimicry.
Family is back together again, until it's not. One day, David dies outside the facility, leaving
So saying that David dies outside the facility, I think that is not... Stating that as fact, when so much is unknown in this franchise still, I don't really like that. Obviously, my theory is that he died in the Sleepy Moon area, and having a channel with 2 million views on this video, just casually saying, oh, he died outside the facility, that makes it for other creators that are saying, hey, he died here, he died inside, he died wherever. It makes it hard. It makes it a lot harder because you're now fighting against people who are use this as pure evidence and say, well, they said he died outside the facility, but you're not giving any evidence on why you think he died outside the facility. You're just stating that he did. But do you have any evidence on why he did?
completely devastated. At the same time, the business is completely crumbling around him. But M1 Fiona has a solution. Make another one of her.
Yes. M1 wants another mimic. She does want a replacement.
You can't put it off any longer. You need to try again. Build another.
Make another mimic that would now mimic David so that they could be together again. Edwin isn't convinced at first, but eventually he gives in.
Where is evidence of him giving in? Because there are literally like 5 audio logs of him saying, no, I'm not gonna do it. And then you're saying suddenly he just changed his mind. Like, I have not seen any evidence that shows that he changed his mind. And my personal belief is that he split F10 and M1 because they were co-inhabiting M1, the endoskeleton M1. He split them, moved F10 into a machine, disposed of M1, and was building this M2 endo for F10 to copy into. We know that F10 is in the machine that we later know as Mixus, which is Mechanical Experimental Storage, something like that. It's a storage unit, though. So we know that this is housing F10. It is storage for F10, supposedly to be able to be copied over into the M2 endo, which is what we see. And that's kind of what I believe on that. I've got other videos about that that go far more into depth than I just did. But to just say, again, blankly, he doesn't want to do it, but he comes around. When you are given so many audio logs of him saying, no, I'm not going to do it, we got to have some breadcrumb to be able to think, okay, well, he changed his mind. There's nothing of him, like, being reluctant towards it and being like, okay, well, maybe I will. There's nothing like that.
Takes M1 out of the endoskeleton, copies the program, and creates M2.
Here's where I don't understand people just saying he takes M1 out of the endo and then makes M2. Why would he not just build another endo? We have evidence of there being multiple endos. Why would he just not build another endo? Like, copying, if you're saying M1 and F10 are the same thing, and you're saying he copied it, he moved it over into another machine, and then put another thing in the endo, copied that program into the endo, why not just copy the program into the machine and let that be a thing, and then you just got rid of your wife, basically, your robot wife. Like, that makes absolutely no sense to me. It makes no sense. And we can see he designed multiple endoskeletons. He designed multiple. Like,
putting the new program into the endoskeleton. And it works. M2 begins acting like David, but it's too much for Edwin to handle.
So why would Edwin not want to create an endo to mimic his dead son, and then, eventually comes around and does create this endoskeleton to mimic his dead son, and then gets shocked and upset and surprised when he does mimic his dead son and destroys it? Like, you're saying that he didn't want to build it, but then he changes his mind and does, and then he changes his mind again and doesn't. I think a more likely explanation for this is that M2 was supposed to be the Fiona endo. It was the copy of F10's program in M2, and it started grieving David and mimicking David, because his reaction to it is unexpected. It's not... If he created it to mimic his son, why is he surprised and upset that it is mimicking his son? In the books, it is not intended to be a replacement for David. And if he was going to make a replacement for David, I think there would have been some sort of audio log giving us the notion that he was even thinking about it. Everything we get, he is so against it.
Handle, and he snaps, beating the animatronic, breaking its legs, and teaching it the valuable lesson of violence that Arnold now gets to experience firsthand. With that failure under his belt and the business still struggling, Edwin locks himself away with his final Fazbear project, a restaurant called Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. But M2 has other plans. It destroys the house, and
It does not destroy the house, it blows up one room.
Edwin is never seen or heard from.
It's just little inconsistencies like this that they build up, and with a channel of this caliber and this size, these are the types of mistakes that can be detrimental to the community. Detrimental. Like, and I hate that it is that much pressure, but it is.
Again, it's a real sad ending, but you see what I mean about how it upends a lot of what we thought we knew? We've got characters we thought were Fazbears now created by someone else. We've got a...
So, the two main characters that I believed were Fazbears 100% is Freddy and Bonnie. We see that they're creating prototypes of these characters, but that doesn't mean that they created Freddy and Bonnie. Now, they might have created Chica, who we didn't think was Fazbear, and maybe Foxy, but that doesn't mean that every single character they did create. They did create a lot, though. And it also, we don't know what was contracted and what was stolen. Like, that's just something else to go deeper into.
A wildly different setup to Edwin and his family than we saw in the books, and this is just the top level stuff that's been given to us on a plate. The more
Some of this top level stuff that's been given to us on a plate is being incorrectly retold to us, and by incorrectly stating facts and then saying it's given to us on a plate, that's reinforcing that everything that you had just said in the past 9 minutes is 100% fact. And that is not true.
The more you dig into these things, the more things begin to change and shift our understanding of the entire franchise. But we've got some time, so let's keep things simple for now. We've been given a bunch of information about Edwin, his family, and his company. But what is the timeline of these events? This is FNAF after all. Timelines are a staple for FNAF theorists everywhere. And I don't just mean a vague order of events. I mean cold, hard dates. Well, as you might expect, this game is pretty careful to leave those sorts of details hidden, only giving us months or days for dates at best. They even block out years so we can't place exact details. But
They block out years. They block out years. They block out years. They block out. They block out years. They block out years. If you're gonna say something and present this at fact, at least use something that is proving what you're saying. Because that is very clearly a 5 right here. This one, yes. This is very clearly a 5. And there's even other purchase orders that we get all around everything that literally say 1979 is the year that we're playing as.
Place exact details. But when has that ever stopped us before? Let's start with the very first teaser for this game. In it, we saw the number 1979.
You just said that they're being elusive with years, and now you're saying that
Showing up on a film reel, giving us a pretty good indication that that was when this game would take place. And once we boot up the game, that does seem to still be the case. In Arnold's van, we come across his work order to collect an endoskeleton from Murray.
again, you're saying that they're being elusive, hiding dates, but then you just showed 2 pieces of evidence where they clearly state the date. Like, you were immediately contradicting yourself in your own video.
Costume manner. The job he is literally on. That work order contains both an issue date and a signing date, which both end up being the same date, September 7th, 1979. I suppose that means that the mimic not only faked Dispatch's voice, but also sent a fake work order?
Again, you are presenting these things as fact when we literally have it in fact in the first ending you can get, the bad ending. Dispatch comes back on the radio and says, "We've been trying to get a hold of you all night. Where did you go?" Like, and there is clearly a point in the game where it sounds like it's when Fiona takes over talking for Dispatch. So I'm literally, yeah, we can see my subscriptions. We're not going to talk about it. Okay.
I already went over one ending in the last video I made.
No, I just want this.
Arnold, there you are.
Right here. That is the same audio that we hear after the Jackie chase. And that's when I believe that F10 actually takes over. It's the same audio that we hear right there. Oh my god, look at me. Found it immediately. Right here.
If you can hear me, pick up. Arnold, there you are. We've been trying to get a hold of you all night.
So
Wait, does that mean that Arnold has a fax machine hidden in this van? What other mysteries does this van hold? Oh, Arnold, you teasing enigma. So, okay, we have the end of our timeline for this game, but as I've kind of already mentioned, that's like the least interesting part of this game's story. We're really here for the Edwin Murray drama. But don't worry, I think we can figure that one out too, thanks to FNAF's longest running trope, dead kids. Well, kid, specifically his son, David Murray. Wait, you're tin can and a bumblebee costume, unless that tin can figures out how to mimic them.
I got a trial of YouTube Premium.
Endless Zone Zero for sponsoring this video, but now
that's cool.
I really gotta tell you about the timeline of David Murray. At the end of the game, you're given a
Okay, I literally got the trial of YouTube Premium because I was in an audition and I didn't know if I would have service to download the video, and I forgot to do it beforehand, like download it as an MP3 and put it on my phone. So I very quickly, I got the option as a YouTube Premium trial, and so I took it just for that.
choice. Either give the data diver back or execute something called parachute.exe. This opens up a hatch in the floor leading to the R&D department and the Murray's house that's on top of the hill near the factory. While trying to avoid M2, you can come across 5 film reels showing some good old-fashioned Murray family home video for David's birthdays. The first is a little uneventful. He gets scared by a new Pirate Roxy puppet and is given his iconic white tiger plushie. The second, Edwin misses because he's too busy working. The third, Edwin breaks the news to David that Mummy isn't coming back. By the fourth, we see Edwin give David his slide that we see out the front of Murray's costume manor, with the robotic voice of M1 Fiona coming from off screen. And then finally, we get number 5, where we see Fiona in all her mimicky animatronic glory. She made a cake for David's birthday and is asked to go outside and collect David before the party gets started. And it's that last video that is crucial to solving this mystery. When M1 Fiona presents her cake, we can see the room she's in, and it's not the Murray's family home like all the others. This is actually an office inside Murray's costume manor. And we know that because if you're willing to spend a lot of time avoiding rollerblading Chica, you actually get to see this room firsthand, complete with all the same decorations.
Oh my gosh. Happy birthday, David.
The place looks abandoned. The food has been there a while, now all molded over. And we find out why thanks to the text logs that we have to collect to figure out the password for this room. On December 1st, Edwin sends out a work memo telling the workers that they need to be here on Saturday for David's party. Then there's a bunch of more light-hearted, jokey messages between the other employees about the room code, but on the 6th, the tone shifts. A message tells everyone that the party has been cancelled due to recent tragic events. With the state of the room, the notices we find about not bringing children to work, and the fact that the playground Edwin refers to must be the play park he got David for one of his birthdays, the one near the loading bay, the one he was warned would be too dangerous to have a kid near.
Look, I get your concern. I do. But they're all just grounders. This is the perfect spot for David's playground.
It all adds up to this being the day that David died. On Saturday, December 6th, everyone was there gathered together just like Edwin had asked, only for M1 to go down to find David and report him dead.
Okay, everyone hide. Fiona, go get him.
Saturday was the day of the party, and that cancellation message was sent out the same day. December 6th was only on a Saturday once in the 1970s. 1975.
You're using this as your date. And part of your evidence. Let me find it. Where was it?
Looks abandoned. The food has been there a while. Now, figure out the password for here on Saturday. Room code cancelled due to recent tragic events. With the state of the room, the notices we
This notice is in 1974. This is before David died. This is before David died. So you're using this as evidence and then saying, oh, but it happened in 1975. So you're literally giving us evidence that does not fit, but saying that it does, and because of how quickly you're showing it on the screen, and you've already told us they don't show us dates, even though this is very clearly 1974. And it is just a little frustrating that I came out with a short that said exactly this, that the games, these events that we're researching, they take place in 1975, based on the employee memos and the party being on the Saturday. And I got so much backlash for that. But now that it's said here, this is going to be the holy grail. And if something that the evidence that you're giving literally is contradicting what you're saying, it's just frustrating coming from a big as creator as this.
In the 1970s. You'd assume that would make this David's 5th birthday, and so his date of birth would be December 6th, 1970. However, I'm not entirely sure that's the case. Firstly, the achievement you get for entering David's party room is called Belated Birthday, and the icon is of a birthday cake with not 5 candles, but 6. And I think we all know that when you're a kid, the number of candles on your cake matters big time. I guess just like content creators, we all like seeing number go up. The matter of the collectibles scattered throughout MCM. By gathering them all, you can boot up a minigame on the computers known as moon.exe. This thing is full of interesting details and symbolism that we will moon.exe.
You say that you're pulling up moon.exe, but you're pulling up the logs. You're not even showing us moon.exe.
Thing is full of interesting details and symbolism that we will 100% be exploring in the future, but the detail that's interesting right now is the collectible called the Full Fest Snow Globe. When you find it again inside moon.exe, you can give it a shake, and we're given this description. Opening day snow globe, a wonderful day with all of us at Full Fest. It's worth noting that right behind this snow globe is a statue of a married couple. The man wears a bow tie, which is something we see associated with Edwin throughout the game. I mean, just look at the guy's logo. He loves bow ties.
Bow ties are cool.
This couple is supposed to be Edwin and Fiona, and so this line about Fall Fest is tied to them. But the use of the word all here is telling. If it was just supposed to be Edwin and Fiona, it would have just said both of us. Or
so going through it like this, you're not giving any evidence as to who you think the player in moon.exe is. And that's a key detail. And I just put out a video on why I think it's Fiona. But it's like you're going from point A to point D, and you're skipping all the points in between that actually lead us to why would this be important? Why does this matter?
And so this line about Fall Fest is tied to them. But the use of the word all here is telling. If it was just supposed to be Edwin and Fiona, it would have just said both of us or the two of us. But all implies a group, i.e. David is also present. Thanks.
It could have, it doesn't mean that David was present. There are audio logs that tell us that Fiona and Edwin used to hang out all the time with the other employees of MCM. So this all of us, like, by your logic, if it's just the three of them, it should have just been a fun day with the three of us. All of us does imply a group, but it doesn't mean that it has to be David. It's just you're hinging some of this stuff on very, very, very little, which is okay, because that's what theorists have to do, but presenting it as fact is where I have an issue with it.
To help wanted to, the earliest Fall Fest we know about happened in 1970. So for this to be a big opening day, to the point where Fazbear creates a special snow globe, it's likely that It
doesn't mean that they created a special snow globe. That's pretty common for festivals to have merch every year. The fair in my county that happens yearly in fall, they've got merch every year without fail. It's just what companies do.
That year being referenced, 1970. And if Scott cares at all about giving this series any kind of logical consistency, Fall Fest would likely have to happen in the autumn. Fine, fall. With David's birthday being established as December 6th, it would be physically impossible for him to also be here on the opening day of Fall Fest in 1970, because he wouldn't have been born for another couple of months.
So there is evidence, though, that Fall Fest is a rebrand of a Big Top festival. If we look in Big Top's area, there's a poster that makes it's of another fall festival, but it was Big Top's festival. So we really don't know how long this festival has been going on. Yes, this snow globe says Fall Fest, but just pointing out that there's more to Fall Fest than even just this.
So he'd have to have been born at least a year earlier, making him at minimum 6. But then why only show us 5 videos? What happened to the missing birthday? Well, we already know that Edwin is too busy to focus on his kid, hence he made the mimic in the first place. Would it be
Again, we don't know if that was exactly why, if he made this mimic specifically for David being a babysitter, or if this was a work order that he repurposed.
out of the realm of possibility that he was so busy he didn't even celebrate one of his kids' birthdays? The game certainly seems to think so, because inside the Storytime showroom you can find David's little den with all of his drawings on the wall, and one of them depicts a birthday with David surrounded not by family but by characters, and he has a cake with 4 candles.
So my thought here is that this is actually M1 that we're seeing in this little elephant guy right here. That's M1, because we know he was scared of the endoskeleton. He thought it was scary, and Edwin says, don't worry, it'll wear costumes. And we see this. This is M1 in a costume, in my opinion. When it comes to M2, he does draw an endoskeleton, and I think that's where it differentiates the pictures, because this is a 4-year-old, 5-year-old child. Okay? This is a child. They're not just gonna get over being afraid of an endoskeleton. Like, that just doesn't happen like that. When I was younger, I was scared of E.T. And I was scared of E.T. for years and years and years, and it still kind of creeps me out. Like, a 4-year-old is not going to just get over this fear to the point that they just draw pictures with it. Especially when Edwin specifically says, oh, it's gonna wear cute little costumes for you. Why would the mimic just start being naked then?
On it. Up until now, David's parties have always been at his house, surrounded by family, not by characters. We never see a video of him having a birthday surrounded by characters, which implies that this is a birthday not caught on camera. Edwin missed his son's 4th birthday.
I do agree with this. I think that's a good point. It wouldn't surprise me if Edwin did. But I don't think this really changes the core story that we're getting here. It just might put an extra year in there.
He was so busy trying to save the company and possibly even building M1 that he got his staff to dress up as characters and look after him.
I don't think it was his staff. I think it was M1 at this point.
Instead. Then, a year later, David gets his big slide, and suddenly M1 Fiona exists to take care of David.
Again, you're saying suddenly M1 exists. There's a tape where he introduces M1 to David, and this is a process that he needs to build connection with this as well. Like, this is still a child. So it's just, I feel like we're skipping over evidence for points that there are actually evidence, and then making up evidence and saying something and showing something completely different for things that aren't as important.
This puts David's 6th birthday in 1975, and therefore his date of birth is actually December 6th, 1969. Nice.
But what's interesting is if David died in 1975, you know, it then gives us the question of how long from David's death till Edwin's disappearance, and then how long from Edwin's disappearance to where we're playing. Because we know where we're playing is 1979, so that's 4 years in between. That's where I'd be focusing the timeline. What's in those 4 years? David going to Fall Fest doesn't matter.
Extrapolate a few other dates and start to put things into a rough timeline. We never get exact ages for Edwin and Fiona, but we do know that David was their first and only child.
We do not know this. This is not stating things as fact is not appropriate at this point in the theorizing that we're at. Saying that this is their first and only child, I have reason to believe that there was another child, possibly miscarried. There was the "we were expecting" note. I still don't know what that means. It's a possibility. But we don't just want to say things that are fact as fact if we don't really know if it's for fact. Because you've started this video as, I'm not theorizing here, I'm gonna make 3 theory videos later, here's the facts of everything in this game, though. And you've just said a bunch of stuff that's not true.
In the late 60s and early 70s, the average age of first-time parents was 21.4 years old. And looking at marriages in the late 1960s, the average man was 23, while the average woman was about 20 when they got married. If Fiona is following these averages, that would mean they pretty much had David just over a year after getting married, putting their wedding in 1968. On top of that, the average length of an engagement for a couple in the 1960s was around just 3 to 6 months, with the ideal scenario being a full engagement with a spring or summer wedding. And
You're just saying that they had a spring or summer wedding because a fall engagement is ideal. But there is no evidence of any of this. There's no evidence. Like, at all. Like, people get married at all times of the year, and really this doesn't even matter to the story. And that's what we really want to be focusing on right now. But by presenting this stuff as fact, along with other pieces of information in the game, it just muddies it so much. Like, I got married in the fall.
most would
I didn't fit the average.
only have been dating for 6 months prior to that. So Fiona and Edwin most likely would have gotten engaged in the fall of 1967.
I just want to say, I think she's so cute in this picture.
And
That's all.
probably only started dating earlier that year. But as I've already told you, this relationship ends far too prematurely. One of the audio logs we find throughout the facility is a voice recording left by Fiona to Edwin explaining that she needs to go to one of their clients' events to make sure nothing.
You're showing a different tape. This is just a pet peeve. You're talking about the audio log where Fiona's saying she's going to Fall Fest. This is not that tape. This is not that one that shows that. And I think it's really important for the audience to see, where are you getting this information from? So show the tape. Show the area that this tape is found in, because this is not that tape. This is the one where she's like, it's horrible, but it happened and you did it before, whatever. This is just a pet peeve, though.
Goes wrong.
I have to go help the Fall Fest crew. I just have this terrible feeling like I need to be there so nothing goes wrong.
Now, remember that part of Moon.exe I mentioned earlier that shows us the married couple? The one representing Edwin and Fiona with the Fall Fest snow globe at their feet? Well, the woman's statue is described as being burnt and blackened. There's also a stall nearby that focuses on sewing materials, like a stand for someone who was maybe there to help with costumes and puppeteering, similar to what we know Fiona was capable of. That's
It says nothing about puppeteering. It says it's a seamstress shop, and there are mannequins. I don't know where you get puppeteering from that.
stand is also completely burnt down and destroyed. Putting all of that together, it clearly tells us that the event Fiona went to was Fall Fest, the Fazbear Carnival we've been theorizing about for so long. And
Again, you're saying that by the snow globe and the seamstress shop, that's why we know that Fiona went to Fall Fest and died there. There is an audio log where Edwin says, "You shouldn't have gone. Why did you go? You should have been here with me and David." There is a text log from an employee saying, "I heard Fiona. Did Edwin lie about what happened at Fall Fest?" That's the actual evidence.
Just as we've been predicting, it absolutely did end in fire, taking Fiona's life with it. Edwin breaks this news to David on his 3rd birthday, and as we've established, Fall Fest should happen in the fall just before that. So that puts Fiona's death sometime between September and November 1972. So right now, our timeline looks like this. Edwin and Fiona start dating in early 19...
It's like when you were in algebra and you're really bad at algebra, but you're so bad that you do all of the wrong things, but you somehow still get the right answer. Because that was me. That was me. I was really, really bad at algebra. I'm not saying they're bad at theorizing. I'm just saying that I'm bad at math. But it's using evidence, using the most obscure little evidence, but still coming to the right conclusions, but leaving out the big hitter evidence that's in this game.
1967. They then get engaged in the fall of that year, which I'm now only just realizing might explain why they're in wedding outfits in Moon.exe. They're next to the Fall Fest snow globe. It's the same time.
We have no evidence that they got engaged in the fall. We have no evidence that they got engaged in the fall. This is literally just a huge leap that you're making and now stating as fact.
Of year, almost as if they're going to Fall Fest like some kind of anniversary celebration. Anyway, they get married in 1968 and have David in 1969. A few years passed, and in the fall of 1972, Fiona goes to Fall Fest and dies in a fire. Edwin then creates the Mimic over the next couple of years. But on the day of David's 6th birthday in 1975, David dies outside the facility.
You're again reiterating that David dies outside the facility with no evidence for it. Because the evidence shows that he dies inside the facility. It just makes it hard to believe anything in this video. And it's frustrating as a small theorist with everything that I'm saying getting picked apart by people, that a channel this big, almost 20 million subscribers, can just say anything as if it's fact. Just say anything as if it's fact. And there are so many oversights of even the basic premise of this game that it's just disappointing. It's just disappointing.
Falls into a pit of despair. He tries to bring back David as M2, but gets angry, beats it up, and disappears.
Again, we have several audio recordings of him saying, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to make him. I don't want to make him. Stop asking me. Stop. Go away. I'm not doing it. What changes his mind? Why would he not want to do it, then get surprised that it worked, and then beat up the thing? You're saying he got angry, beats it up, and disappears. We're again skipping actual facts of the game. He got angry. Whether he built it to be, we'll ignore that for now. That's fine. He beats up the Mimic, destroys it. The Mimic repairs himself, and then comes back, and then explodes the house, or not the house, his room. He didn't destroy the house like you said earlier. He just blew up an office. Edwin gets hurt, and M2 leaves him, presumably. It's not that Edwin just poof.
Leaving M2 to roam the facility and Fazbear to grow impatient with Edwin's lack of deliverables, and so they send in Arnold to take what is theirs.
Let's be clear, they sent in several groups. Arnold is not the first. They have been trying for who knows how long at this point.
September 1979. But there is one more date we're able to track thanks to all of this. The death of Murray Sr. Now, look, I know he may not seem like an important character in all of this. Let's be honest, he's kind of a footnote in the whole game. We only see his portrait a couple of times, and we only get 2 audio logs even mentioning him. But those 2 audio logs reveal a lot, not only about when he died, but also the final.
But if we're gonna say that 2 audio logs barely mentioning a guy are super important, why are we not gonna say that the one audio log that very clearly shows that Fiona's ghost is in MCM, why is that not gonna be mentioned?
order of events for Murray's costume manner, and an interesting detail about our favorite singing bear company. In the audio log where we learn about Murray Sr.'s passing, it's a conversation between Edwin and Fiona, so they do have to have at least met at this point. Plus, they seem quite close.
The company is going to collapse and they're all going to hate me.
And you'll figure it out. Just take a deep breath. It's your company now. Your dad believed in you. Otherwise, he wouldn't have left it to you.
She's being encouraging in the way that a supportive partner would and should. So they're most likely at least dating when he passes. But the real key comes from when you backtrack through the entire game to find this specific Mr. Helpful. I mentioned earlier how we get new permissions for our data diver throughout the game to access new areas. Well, that isn't the only thing you get to access. The Mr. and Mrs. Helpfuls throughout the facility also have different responses depending on the staff level that is talking to them. If you go back and find them all once you get executive level access, we actually start to hear messages recorded by Edwin or Fiona directly addressing one another. And this one right here is very interesting indeed.
I've got something very important to ask you, okay? Here goes. You become the heart of this company, and I want to share it with you. And you're also really pretty, like asymmetrical pretty. So, will you marry me, please?
Yes!
One thing to note is that he asks her using executive level access. That means if she just is gonna be able to access this, she is already an executive at this point.
It's very nerdy and very sweet, just like how I proposed. The point is, during Edwin's awkward ramblings, he says this line.
You become the heart of this company.
You are the heart of the company. When they met, she was just a new employee. There's no way she would be that instrumental to the company and its quote-unquote heart. However, once Murray Sr. passed on and Edwin was left in charge, Fiona became his main collaborator. She is the one who cared for the employees and the company while Edwin was off making more crazy inventions. We can even hear her concern during the pre-recorded elevator repair tapes.
Please follow the instructions to reset the elevator. Sounds scary.
It feels like she's reading a script and she's
yeah,
kind of
it
concerned
may
about what
already
she's
be.
reading.
It's only once Edwin takes over that Fiona has the opportunity to fill the position as the heart of the company. And
We know that she was doing costuming. I fail to see why this is what we harp on when there's so much that was just skipped over.
also, this recording is on a helpful. One of the things that Edwin would only have been able to install fully once he'd taken over.
Could start making some of my inventions for real.
All of that.
I do agree with that. I do agree that he proposed after his father passed, but I think it's important to again note that that shows that when he took over, his focus was not costumes. His focus was now inventions.
To say that Murray Sr. died sometime between Edwin and Fiona dating and them getting engaged, placing it sometime in 1967. And that's an important detail because while it seems early in most timelines for this franchise, Murray Sr. appears to have some kind of connection with Fazbear Entertainment, even before he passes and hands the company over to Edwin.
Yes, he would, because he was the one who created the deals. I'm sorry, we saw the way that Edwin proposed. Do we really think that this man was getting deals?
In a number of the audio logs you can find later on in the game, it becomes very clear that Edwin is getting a little bit paranoid.
Edwin, never forget, they're behind it. Don't trust them. Never tell them they want to destroy you. Dad was right.
Now, you may be asking, who is this them, and what is it he's not supposed to be telling them? Well, through another couple of audio and text logs, both of those answers become quite easy to figure out. In literally the next audio log you can obtain, Edwin tells us that there's a leak in the company.
I figured it out.
Yep.
There's a leak. Someone told them about M2. Well, they can't have it.
M2, the brand new mimic that can adjust to any costume and mimic.
You're saying this is a brand new mimic? I thought this was M1, according to what you said earlier.
Any character or
Rather, I thought this was M1 with just some new copied code. M1 code copied. It's not brand new.
person is what's being leaked. And with that in mind, the they becomes even easier to figure out. A bunch of the text logs have a consistent running theme. Working for Murray's Costume Manor sucks. They want out.
One more injury and I'm out of here. I mean it this time. Barb, I swear, if I hear that song one more time, I'm going to tear that.
I mean, there's even an audio log where Fiona is saying that the team is overworked. There's too many ideas. The company was running into the ground when Edwin took over. That's just it. He had one good invention, the Cladovac, which we can tell that by moon.exe, and then everything else was failing. And we can also tell that those other inventions were created before the Mimic was created, because those other smaller inventions, like the magic coat rack, just cereal, the mush men, music men, whatever it's called, those are the components that are then used to create the Mimic.
That dolly off her hinges. I have no clue how much longer I can take it here.
Some of them leave on their own accord, while others are being poached by a rival company.
We're almost there. I need the rest of the Murray staff contact info. The sooner the better. You get that for me, and I can sweeten the deal. How would you like to manage one of the new franchise locations? W.A.
That's right, good old Willie A is here, and he's as evil a businessman as we always thought. Fazbear is actively stealing not just employees, but their business secrets. So, it's Fazbear that is, quote, behind it. They are the ones who want to destroy Edwin, and he is reminding himself to not let them have the Mimic program. But
This is another thing that there's far more evidence towards this. And when making these claims, I know it's already a 30-minute video, but we spent so much time going over nothing burgers that I wish that there was time spent on the evidence that does exist in the game. So,
do you remember the last thing he said?
Dad was right.
Dad was right. This mini paranoid speech is all about how Fazbear isn't to be trusted. And those words of advice came from Edwin's father. How? Because clearly Murray Sr. knew about Fazbear, Afton, and all of their shady business practices.
I mean, again, if Edwin took over this company, and as soon as he took over the company, we hear from the audio logs, he wanted to make his inventions real. Fazbear is not contracting him for inventions. They're not. They're not. They would be contracting him for mascot suits. I know they're contracting him for the prototypes in the basement. That is a huge deal. That is a huge, 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 huge deal. Edwin does not seem like the type that wanted to go out and get work from people to create things. He wanted to create his inventions and sell them. So it makes sense that this would be a deal made by Edwin Sr.
Either because Murray Sr. was already in business with them,
or Murray Sr.
prior to his death, or simply because MCM had been around for a while, and so he'd have likely seen how they operated and how small businesses they were working with suddenly disappeared, and so he made sure to warn his son about them. We all knew that
I mean, it would make sense though. Like, we know that Edwin was friends with them, according to Edwin. So this makes sense that it would be a long relationship.
Fazbear had been around a lot longer than we thought with the introduction of the 1970s Fall Fest poster in Help Wanted 2. But now, it seems that they go back even further. Sure, it's only a few more years on paper, but just like everything in this game, we're being shown that we can't strictly rely on what we think we know as definitive. If we thought this prequel destroyed our understanding of the franchise, just wait until we learn about what was going on before all of this. First, it's a few more years into the 1960s, but who knows how far back it goes. Maybe Matt and I weren't so far off with the whole singing bear in the 1930s. But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory! Thanks for watching.
I think that my issue is, like, this is a fine video, but my issue is it had a lot of inconsistencies while saying really nothing at all. And again, this game theory, everything you know about FNAF is a lie. It didn't even go into that. It didn't even go into why is everything a lie. It went into the timeline of just this game as a whole. So it just feels like putting a video to put a video out, and quick editing, quick script, because there's just so many inconsistencies, and this is not up to the quality of a channel that has 20 million subscribers. And I think one of the biggest issues is how this kind of closes the door for other FNAF theorists. If you look at the videos I've been putting out, it basically contradicts and goes against everything that they've said is fact. But I have evidence in my videos while they presented none. It makes it hard for other theorists to think outside the box or disagree with a channel as big as Game Theory. So I wish there was just a little bit more consideration and thought put into these videos where it really impacts the entire community. If we are fed all of this information as fact from a source as big as this, it's hard to go against it. It's hard to say, hey, I don't agree with this, because then you've got 20 million people coming after you. So I think videos like this make it harder for other theorists to have the opportunity to think outside the box, because it's presenting some information in the game as a complete fact, even if that information is incorrect. But with that said, again, I want to reiterate that I love game theory, I love Tom, I love their theories. This is just not up to the standard that I would expect from them. And I think it's important as theorists to maintain a healthy community. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, make sure you like and subscribe. And if there's any other theories you'd like me to react to, make sure you drop them in the comments below. Be sure to check them out. So thank you again, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.